The Cincinnati Reds have demonstrated with absolute certainty that they don't have what it takes to overcome adversity in a baseball game.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? I'm Jeff. He's Steve. And on today's Locked On Reds podcast, that is brought to you by Kalshi. By the way, for a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code Locked On to get $10 when you trade 10 over on Kalshi. Trade on anything. Later on, we will talk about the Players Association's latest offer for the collective bargaining agreement and what it has to do with the Reds, because this has to do with how you manage the roster. In just a few minutes, we are going to tell you why we're worried about this season, not only continuing to just sort of, stall, but also maybe go backwards. We'll explain. But we'll begin with another loss, 3 out of the 4. They've only played 3. They got 1 more against Jacob Mizorowski today. Yay. But the Reds have lost now 6 games against the Milwaukee Brewers this year, Steve, and they have played 6 games against the Milwaukee Brewers. It's really been a bad time. And honestly, it's gotten to the point that if the Reds are going to play a serious baseball club like the Milwaukee Brewers, everything, and I mean everything, I'm pretty sure the team bus needs to catch every green light on the way to the stadium for them to win. Everything's got to be perfect.
And I'm not sure that even then it would matter, because it's clear that the Milwaukee Brewers are in the Reds' heads. You watch this team on the field, you look at how they perform, you look at how things go. The Reds look like a team that are just expecting for the wheels to come off every time they play the Brewers. We're here now, the beginning of July, Jeff. This Reds team has won 4 games against the National League Central. You can count in the month of July, you can count all of their wins in division on one hand. And for you having gone to school in Alabama, I know that's helpful. So this team is bad, is what I'm saying. Perfection is not going to get it done. The simple fact of the matter, I have come to the conclusion, I have arrived at the spot. I am ready to proclaim, I am ready to declare, this team is terrible.
And the worst part about this is the fact that they were supposed to be so much more, that we were told they were going to be so much more. We bought into it. We analyzed it and we said, yeah, that makes sense. But literally every 50-50 thing, whether you're talking about a guy that needs to break out, a guy that needs to bounce back, whatever that might be, all of those things have gone the opposite way that we need them to go. Whether that be health, whether that be ineffectiveness, whatever it might be. Like in the lineup, I know that Noelvi Marte homered tonight, which randomly he has become a homer or nothing guy.
Yep.
But if Ellie and Sal don't do it, it doesn't get done. And then on the pitching side of things, like unless Chase Burns is pitching, you don't feel really good about things. I mean, Andrew Abbott had another very kind of start. He only threw 5 in.
Yeah, way too many walks in his 4th start in a row where he only gave you 5 innings.
I'm tired of hearing about good 5-inning starts. You know what good 5-inning starts gives us? 12 outs that the bullpen needs to get. Like, that's still far too many outs for this bullpen. I would argue 9 outs might be too much for this bullpen to get. But 12 outs is certainly too many. And I don't care how good those 5 innings are for the starter. The bullpen is going to mess it up. And unless the lineup has had a perfect day in which they have just outmanned the scoreboard, it's just not going to work. And that is so frustrating here, because this is how we described this team in 2022. And that is how we are describing this team in 2026. The hope of 2023 is so far away and gone, to the point that it feels like they need to start over. And I hate even thinking that way, because they need to start over from the top. And I don't know that they want to do that.
I don't think they want to do that, Jeff. And you know, I look at this game that they're going to play today. Would you consider skipping? If you were the Brewers, would you consider skipping Mazeroski and going to somebody else? They don't really need him to start against the Reds. Would you save him for a more, important, they got the D-backs next. They're going to Arizona. Maybe you save.
Then they have a long stretch of division games too.
Right. Then they go to Cardinals and then they go to Pittsburgh. So maybe, and there's a doubleheader sprinkled in there for good measure. So I don't know that I would even throw him against the Reds tomorrow and Chase Burns. I might sit back and save him for a team that matters and is relevant and that you were worried about maybe winning a baseball game against you.
So what you're saying is if the Brewers and the Reds were in the schoolyard about to have a fight, the Brewers should be like, you know what? One hand tied behind me.
Yes.
No, two hands tied behind my back. What you got? Like that kind of feels like
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It
The
kind of feels like what the
Reds against the Brewers right now are, the little 7-year-old that's got a brother that's a teenager and just knows that he's about to get his head slapped, and the head slap is coming. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to stand there and wait for it to be over with.
And that that leads me to my positive that we pulled out of today's game. And that is that after Thursday's game, there are only going to be 6 more of these in 2026. There's only so many games that you play against your division rival. But the problem is not just the Brewers. Like we've seen this too often against other teams. The play of this team has been unacceptable. And the way that it's been ran has been unacceptable. Like I kind of feel like Terry Francona has been given the kind of roster that he has to throw up his hands every morning that he sits down to look at who he's going to put in the lineup, who he's going to put at a defensive position, who he's going to go to in the bullpen. And on some days, who his starter is going to be. And it's not as if he's going to make a different decision on who the starter is, but he's got to be like, well, I hope we get at least 5. And in 5 really isn't enough, as we continue to say. So this whole thing just feels and reeks of just not caring about putting a good product on the field. And it's not Terry Francona's fault for doing that. That is the front office's fault, and that is ownership's fault. And it's unacceptable.
Tito doesn't get to go pick the players. That's Nick Krall. And, I was talking to you off air about the fact that, this team is very close to having to make a decision about selling. And at this point, it's clear to me they need to be sellers. You need to be
at the trade deadline.
Yeah. You need to be getting whatever you can for JJ Bleday, whatever you can for Tyler Stevenson, whatever you can for Nathaniel Lowe, and anybody else that you don't consider to be your core over the next 4 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons. All those guys need to be traded. Now you find yourself in a position where a team that we were told was going out to compete for the division, a team that we were told was ready to turn the corner. The time was now. It's go time. All of the things that they said to create banners out in Goodyear. We were told all of those things. This team has failed to deliver that. Is that Terry Francona's fault? No, but it certainly is Nick Krall's fault. And ultimately, now you watch the Castellinis, and now you see how they handle this and how they process this. Because what they can do without saying a word or talking to a camera or scheduling an interview or ever meeting with a media member or the fans, what they can do is confirm what we've been saying all along, which is wins, losses don't matter. The results on the field don't matter. The product getting to the playoffs doesn't matter because they make their money every single season from Major League Baseball before a pitch is thrown. If the Castellinis continue to sit back and do not hold Nick Krall accountable and go outside the organization to replace him and go outside the organization to try and make things better around here, if they don't do that now, it confirms everything we've been saying and that they've tried to kind of deny with a smirk on their face and tongue in their cheek, because they will be confirming that the only thing that matters to them is the check that Rob Manfred's writing them at the beginning of every season, that they're cashing and laughing all the way to the bank to do it. And we're at the point now where the writing is on the wall and it's time for them to act. It's time for Phil to do something. Because Phil, I want to know, Phil, where are you going to go?
And I feel like it's not even just the fans, it's the players on the roster that need to see some sort of commitment from ownership on this, because it's clear it's unacceptable. And what we're worried about It's how the players perceive what comes next. During the Major League Baseball season, you can trade everything over on Kalshi, whether it's singular games or futures, all-star game stuff. It's all over on Kalshi right now. And today, with the Reds facing Jacob Misiorowski, the odds are not good for the Reds to win. It's at 36%. But hey, if you put $100 trade down on the Reds to win at 36%, your payout could be $265.86 if the Reds end up winning. So you're saying there's a chance. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in the live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app today and use the code Locked On to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 and up only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Thanks for being an everydayer and being here to listen to us talk a little Reds baseball with you. If you haven't done so, click that subscribe button, click the notification bell if you're watching here on YouTube. That way you get everything we've got coming your way all season long. You also get Tim Daniel every single day live after every single Reds game with the postcast. If you're in the audio feeds, go click subscribe button over there as well. All of the good content comes your way as well. You don't want to miss any of it. All right, Jeff. You know, a pretty strong statement I had there directed at ownership and the front office. I think you're right, though, in what you said, which is that the players are watching. If you're a player on this team and you know that you're going to be a free agent or you're likely to be traded, you're out there trying right now, get your value up, play yourself into another opportunity, whether that's a new contract, whether that's a trade to a new team that has a snowball's chance of making the postseason. Those are the things you're playing for. For the other guys, the guys that the Reds still have a lot of team control on, the guys that we consider a core of this team, that the Reds consider a core of this team, I am concerned as they continue to take beating after beating in the division, as they continue to fall farther and farther behind. As we're recording right now, they're 6 games back in the wild card, and they're 14 and a half games back in the National League Central. That's that ground that you're going to recover from. And to recover from that in the wild card, the amount of epic collapses that teams above you would have to have, the odds of that, I haven't done the calculations, but they're pretty astronomical. So from the perspective of those players, those core players that aren't going anywhere, that don't have a hope of being traded, that are going to be here for the foreseeable future, I don't know just how much motivation they're going to go out and play with every day when the top of this organization through the front office down to your manager are all kind of like, well, this is what we got, guys. Let's go. Right. This is it.
It's a big shoulder shrug, right? And that is just so ridiculously unacceptable. I keep saying that word, but it's ridiculously unacceptable in a year that was supposed to be, as many have said, a culmination of, you know, the rebuild or the build or, you know, all those years of futility. And you get Ellie, you get other guys in here with him. And this is what we get. We got a playoff appearance of 2 games and getting absolutely just destroyed by the Los Angeles Dodgers, only for this all to fall back to ruin. And I think for me, if I'm a part of that clubhouse and I don't see any accountability at the top, then what is my accountability as a player? What is my, like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do what I can. But at the end of the day, it becomes far more singular than about the team. And all we've heard ever since Terry Francona got here was it's about the team. It's about this. It's about, you know, it's about how we all win or lose as a group. And that's the right thing to say as a manager and understood. But when winning is off the table, what's next? The other part of this too is it really puts the focus and the pressure on the development side of things. And I kind of feel as though we are all very concerned about that side of things when it comes to the major league part of this.
The farm systems being exposed tremendously right now.
And they made a lot of promotions. They did. There were some guys that got moved up, and I was happy to see it. But the guys who are here right now affecting the present are supposed to be the guys that we all show up to the ballpark for, that we all buy their jerseys for, that we collectively as a fan base rally behind. And there is no one leaving the gates faster than Reds country right now, because they see what's happening. They've seen it before, and they know what's coming next. And so when you do the thing that you should do as a front office, you're going to signal to the fans that there's no reason to buy in for the rest of the season. And I worry that the Reds players, the core guys like Ellie and those guys, who, albeit their character is phenomenal, I'm not questioning their character with this. I'm saying that the circumstances are going to be suffocating. And how do you buy in at that point? So then not only are you done with the playoff race, are you racing toward the basement then? Because that is absolutely unacceptable.
No, I said this to you during show prep, and I'll say it here again on air. You know, I think right now, Jeff, it would be more fun to be a fan of the Colorado Rockies than it is to be a fan of this Cincinnati Reds team. Because at least with the Rockies, you did not come into this season with any expectations at all. Every single ball game that the Colorado Rockies have won, and they won yesterday, every game that they've won is gravy, because there was a scenario where they were going to set an all-time record for losses in a season. That's how bad they were projected to be this year. So the fact that the Reds are only 6 games ahead of them in the standings right now is very damning to everybody that has anything to do with organizing and managing the Cincinnati Reds right now.
I had an interesting guest appearance over on the Locked On Rockies podcast. It was either yesterday or today. I forget when it got posted, but had a great conversation with him, with Paul Holden over at Locked On Rockies, kind of breaking down the fact that the Reds feel more close to the Rockies than they do to where they should be at this point. And honestly, Steve, like, they're 6 games out of the wild card, the Reds are. They're only 6 games ahead of the Rockies, and the Rockies have the worst record in baseball. So for me, that is just so damning for whatever it is you want. If you want to point the finger at this guy or that guy or this, honestly, I don't know that there's a wrong answer, but I think that you've got to be pointing your finger at Nick Krall, because if the ownership group isn't, then they are daring fans to stick around, and they will see where else they're going to go, because you are telling your fans that you do not care about winning if you back Nick Krall. Because all Nick Krall has said publicly since the season began, well, we just got to see what we have. We just got to see what's going to happen. We just got to see. Well, we're seeing, and it ain't good.
Now, I know what we have. We don't have a whole lot of anything right now. That's the problem. And the unwillingness to adapt, the unwillingness to adjust, the unwillingness to go get what this team needs, the unwillingness to move on from players when they need to be moved on from. And that includes guys like Matt McLain, who is now inexplicably the right-handed half of the starting center field platoon on this team.
Sure.
Like you continue to look around and go, this feels an awful lot like, you know, I don't know if you've ever played the game Outside of the Park, Jeff. It's a computer-based sim game, baseball. And this is the kind of stuff you did on that game. You just grab players that you thought could do, and you just stick them wherever, whatever, any old spot. Doesn't matter. Defense doesn't matter. You just get them on the roster. You get them out there. But at least that was to try and get good hitters on the field. What the Reds are doing right now, I mean, is there some record they're chasing about the number of infielders that you can have in a game at one time? I don't know what's happening, but none of it seems like normal baseball to me.
No, it really doesn't. And we just got to hope that at some point things change, because as of right now, I don't think you or I have a lot of faith that ownership is going to make the necessary changes. And we just got to hope that we see something from the guys on the field, because the guys off the field might be more frustrating than the current win-loss record of the team.
Well, listen, Jeff, as fun as this conversation's been, let's drop in some really entertaining stuff and talk about the collective bargaining agreement, because the owners have said some things, the players just said some things, and it's kind of painting a pretty clear picture of where these negotiations are going. There's nothing like watching a Reds game. Even better is when you get to watch it live, the excitement, the fans. The only problem, getting tickets can feel like a grind, long queues, surprise fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why there's Game Time. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you can unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means that you get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price that you see. So what you see is what you pay, period. Jeff and I use this all the time. We head down to the banks. We find our favorite spot. We grab something to drink. We grab something to eat. And as we get close to first pitch, we grab our tickets and head on into the ballpark. 2 taps and it's done. No stress, no hidden fees, just great seats in minutes. That's what makes it so easy to decide on last-minute tickets to the game. Take the guesswork out of buying your MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply. Again, create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Reds part of your day. I invite you to continue the conversation with us after the show is over on social media. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs over on X and on TikTok. You can follow Steve at S. Offenbaker with 2 Fs over on X. And you can follow the show at Locked On Reds everywhere you get your social media. All right, Steve, the Players Association postured itself not necessarily completely opposite of what the owners said. The owners had a lot to say about caps and floors and all this other stuff and, you know, minimum salaries and all that stuff for rookies and maximums and blah, blah, blah. The players didn't necessarily counter. They said they came up with transaction proposals that's going to benefit all players. And I think that all of these point to something very important for the Reds because it would change how they operate if all of it is agreed to. Now, they're not going to do that. Nobody's actually negotiating right now. They're all doing that thing like, you know, when you play chess or checkers or something, you're just putting your pieces on a board at this point. That's what both sides are doing. And the Players Association come up with a couple of different things, expanding active rosters from 26 to 28, 14 pitcher maximum for the first 15 days of the regular season. This is, you know, designed to protect player health in the lead up to and just after opening day and provide additional major league job opportunities for players coming out of spring training. They are also going to allow for placement of players on the 60-day IL as early as the November tender deadline, which currently can't do that. You have to wait till the season gets going before you can place a guy on the 60-day IL. This would change that, and the idea being more opportunity to roster guys and things like that. They also want to reduce the number of permissible in-season optional assignments. So the number of options that a player has. Currently, they have 5. They want to reduce that to 3. And then they also want to accelerate eligibility for Rule 5 draft players, which they don't necessarily outline as to what that is. Currently, there's a certain number of service time years that you have to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. And then they want to provide MLB service time and salary protections to pitchers who are optioned to the minor leagues during the All-Star break and or immediately after a game where they met certain performance thresholds. And then also enable all players to access club-collected non-proprietary performance data in video designed to increase transparency and allow players to track their work with the same information management is using. So all this being said, this is, you know, the idea of getting players quicker to the Rule 5, the idea of getting rid of options quicker instead of 5 going down to 3. They want teams to have less control. And this goes back to the creation of the union. Whenever they wanted to get rid of the reserve clause, there has still been a version of the reserve clause up till this point, and they're trying to continue to whittle that away. They understand that players need to be under team control for a certain amount of time, but they think that it's too long, and that would definitely affect how the Reds operate their organization.
So what we see here is the players and the players union setting up parameters to get players to free agency faster. That is the goal. That is the mission. Get to the money faster. What we've seen from the owner side of things is they want to create a salary floor. They put some numbers out there. They want to create a salary cap. They've put some numbers out there. Interestingly, they've also put some contract limitations on a maximum free agent deal of 5 years. That's what the owners have proposed. 6 years if you're re-signing with your team. If you're not changing teams, re-signing with that team. Also, maximum contracts that are higher if you re-sign with your team.
The value. Yeah.
Going to go to a new team. All of this is shaping up to be the largest, biggest, ugliest knockdown, drag out contract negotiation in the history of the sport. It is not going anywhere fun. It is not going anywhere pretty. And the more of these things that get thrown out on the table, you're right. Nobody's really showing all of their cards yet. They're just kind of putting their pieces on the board, and they haven't necessarily telegraphed where those pieces are going to move yet. But you look at both sides of this thing, I think the owners have finally reached a point where they're going to be willing to shut the sport down for a long period of time in order to get where they want to get for the long term. Not going to be pretty, Jeff. And the more that I hear about it, the more concerned that I am about it, because we know how much damage was done to the sport the last time there was a real work stoppage. Go back to the season where the Reds were robbed of a postseason appearance with a midseason shutdown. So, I think that's going to be peanuts compared to what we're going to see this time around.
I do wonder if they are waiting on beginning the whole negotiation process so that they don't risk losing the rest of the season, knowing that they're going to lose so much of next season, because that's what happened. Like, for anybody that does not know the history of this, is that in 1994, the owners wanted a salary cap and the players vehemently opposed the salary cap, so much so that the World Series was canceled. And then they missed part of the 1990. Was it part of the 1990? Yeah, they missed like a week or two of the
94 into 95. Yeah.
So it dragged on, and they caved. No salary cap moving forward, all that other stuff. It doesn't feel like the owners are going to cave that quickly. And the fact that the players have offered their own versions of the financial side as well, which is not a hard cap. It's more luxury tax penalties on the top end, but also luxury tax penalties. So I guess what non-luxury tax? What's the opposite of luxury? Cheapo tax? On the bottom side of things, where it's not a hard cap, hard floor, but teams have to pay more if they pay less, and they have to pay more if they pay more. So they're trying to come to that table a little bit financially, but they are nowhere near where the owners are on those numbers, because they understand more cap means, or less cap means less spending on free agents.
And I think it's important to also differentiate the fact that the owners are not unified in this. In fact, the Dodgers and the Mets are targets of many of the proposals that Major League Baseball has put on the table. Major League Baseball is proposing the end of deferrals, salary deferrals. That's a direct shot at the Dodgers. The caps on length of contracts and value of contracts is a shot at Steve Cohen and what he's done with the New York Mets and that Juan Soto contract. It's direct responses to that. This is why it's going to be such a protracted, prolonged battle, because first the owners are going to have to fight with themselves. Then when they reach a consensus, they're going to have to fight with the players, and it's going to be problematic.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful here that at the end of this, we see something that promotes action from teams like the Reds, because we have gotten to a point where teams like the Reds, the Pirates, the Rockies, I'm trying to think of like some other smaller market organizations that don't necessarily operate, because like the Brewers are not the target of this. The Rays are not the target of this. The Guardians are not the target of this. They figured out how to operate within their means. It's the teams that cannot and will not operate within their means that need to kind of be pushed forward by this.
I have a question for you and for the everydayers that I want to see answers to in the comment section. And the question is this: if this rigmarole, this contract negotiation, this new CBA, if that gets Major League Baseball to parity much similar to what you get in the NFL, much similar to what you get in the NBA. If this gets baseball to parity, do you really care how much the owners are making? Do you really care how much the players are making? Do you really care about the financials of the sport and who's paying who and who's making what? Or do you care about them getting the sport to a level of parity where every year, every team has an opportunity to compete?
The level of parity is important as far as the fan's perspective goes and what I think about it. I think there's a length of time that I'd be willing to cave to just get games back on the field, which is why we're not part of the negotiation. But the only thing that matters to me is how long it's going to take them to do this, because you're right. It feels like this is headed for a marathon. And quite frankly, the Major League Baseball cannot afford a marathon. They have grown the sport. They have. It's grown in popularity over the last couple of years. But if they do this, they will completely wipe out all momentum, maybe go backwards, and could cede territory to the NHL when it comes to this all being said and done. So I really want them to recognize the risk that is coming. And that's to both sides. That's to players, that's to owners, that's all the above. Because as of right now, there are so many more people talking about other sports right now than Major League Baseball if there's a lockout next year. And that would just be, I'm not saying it would kill the sport, but that would be so bad for the sport.
And on that happy note, that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thanks for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. Go make Locked On MLB your second listen. 3 great shows over there in that feed covering baseball. Sully's got you covered with Major League Baseball from a national perspective over there. Former Reds reliever Mike Stanton gives you Major League Baseball from a retired player's perspective, and the folks over at MLB Game Night are watching every single game every single night so that you don't have to. For the video, folks, go check out Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel where all of the experts of all of the Locked On network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Jeff and I will be back in your feeds tomorrow, gathering up all the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, and the information to keep you Locked On Reds every single day. If there's a big lockout, I say we launch the Locked On Fairfield Little League podcast. What say you?
I've got some reporters for that if that happens.